Hey, here I am. Oh my goodness. So, I'm doing a live video today for a few reasons. So, for one, I had a dream this morning. When I committed the carnal sin of hitting the snooze button, I went back to sleep and I had this short little dream where I had a vision where I was walking down the street and a man on a bicycle who was looking at his phone uh comes riding down the street, and I realized that's Gary Vaynerchuk. Oh my God, that's Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's right there. So from across the street, I'm like, "Hey, Gary! Hey, my name is Rachel. I've got a YouTube channel. Would you come over here and let's go live on Instagram?" And so he comes over and he smiles and he gets off his bike and he's like, "Yeah, hey Rachel, you crushing it? Sure, let's go live on Instagram." And I'm just like, I'm handling it really well in my dream self, instead of being like flushed and not knowing what to say, right on top of things. I'm like, okay, we're going live. So I pull out my phone, and it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever driven a car or something like that in your dream and it just doesn't work the way that you think it should. Well, see, I've never gone live on any platform. And so that's kind of why I'm here today going live, is because even if nobody pops on, I realize this is just part of the medium that I use. And so I need to be able to do it too. And so in the dream, I'm pulling out my phone and it's like locking on each of our faces. Like it won't show both of us in the same frame. And there's like filters on. So we have like cat eyes, you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff is happening. And eventually he starts getting a little bit annoyed, and he's obviously, I don't have any idea what I'm doing. and, and so here I am, and I'm just completely disappointed. Gary Vaynerchuk and made a terrible impression. I'm that girl that whipped out her phone and didn't have any clue what she was doing. So I woke up and I realized, like, I need to figure out what I would do in that kind of situation. Now, maybe most people that I admire, that I would meet, I wouldn't necessarily pull out my phone immediately and be like, "Let's go on Instagram." Gary Vaynerchuk, I think I would. I think that's kind of his thing. It's his medium. It's his zone. So since I'm live, I'm gonna have to drink my coffee right in front of you and can't edit it out. My coffee. So I wanted to do a follow-up video because I did a video a few weeks ago, probably maybe even longer than that. It was about my room and the state of affairs in my room, which is not great. And it certainly wasn't then. It was actually a lot worse though. And so I wanted to go through a few things, just kind of show you, because I feel like it's accountability. Like I'm creating a little community here, and I want us all to be working on being our best humans. And it's very difficult to do your best anything in an environment that is cluttered and cramped. So just as background of why the place I live is in the state that it is in the first place, we moved from Vancouver, Washington, where we were living in my mother-in-law's home, and it was very big. Well, she had a big house, and she also had she was selling antiques, and so she had a lot of her inventory in her house, and so there was a lot of nice things and things that she didn't want to part with because she had spent money on them, and she wanted to either get that money back or uh, see someone take it, that would make her feel good about it. So we had a lot of stuff that didn't belong to us, kind of gifted to us unwillingly, in a lot of cases. I remember at one point she literally held up, what I thought about this later. I think it was like a cake stand. It was like it had this big marble piece in the center, and it was round. She held it up and was like, "Well, would you like this? It's a really nice thing." And I was just like, "You're trying to convince me to take something and you don't even know what it is? Like, how am I supposed to? So we ended up with a lot of stuff. So that's my point about that. And so when we moved into from probably, I mean, 2,000 square foot, something like that, house in Vancouver, when we moved, we lived for a while, we lived in a yurt, and almost all of our things were just in a storage unit. And the yurt was great. We love living in a yurt. We have a 20-foot yurt, and it was beautiful. We lived there with my baby daughter. And yeah, I loved it. I mean, it would have been, there would have been things obviously I would have changed if it was set up for like long-term living. But as far as like a place to live, we lived there with family, all five of us, little brand new baby, and our two boys. And that was like one of the like most la 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 little like honeymoon times of our whole, at least my partner and I's whole like relationship so far. We had these beautiful weeks living in this yurt. And so we went from there to eventually finding this apartment, where we now have about 700 square feet. So obviously that's a lot more than what we had in the yurt, but then we had to move everything out of the storage unit and into this unit. And so we've ended up squishing a lot more than we ever even lived with before, because it was all, a lot of the things that we came with were actually not our things. And so trying to just, and we had been so desensitized to taking more things into our life. And that was one of the things that we've been realizing as we've been doing this decluttering job, is that part of the process of acquiring these things had really desensitized us to, because that little voice in our head of like, this is a really nice thing, became a lot more prevalent as we would go through things, and we would be like, well, this is a useful thing, without really like incorporating the context of like, is it actually useful to us now? Is this something that we're really like ever feasibly going to use? And something that I had to discuss with my fiance is the idea that just because something might be useful in a situation that you aren't in now, because a lot of things we hung on to in anticipation of living in a house again. And so we had like a lot more garden tools, for example, and things like that. We do have a little baby garden in our backyard. It's a little sad this year. We kind of let it go, but it's still nice. It keeps us in touch with our property and the ground and everything. But we anticipated living in a house again. And so we have a lot of things that are for like taking care of a house, like a pressure washer and things like that, that you need when you are cleaning a roof and things like that, that you just don't do when you live in an apartment. So we've had to come up with like a metric. Hello, there's somebody here. I just realized. But my fiance and I had to come up with sort of a metric to decide, are we going to keep something or are we going to get rid of something based on, is it going to be so expensive to replace that it's worth like 5 years of rent in our home as something to keep here now? So for example, the pressure washer actually stuck around because it's hard to replace those, and it was free, and it was tucked away in a spot underneath our stairs where it's out of the way. So it's worth its space to have, because there's other things we can do with it, whatever. So as we've gone through things, I've really gotten rid of a lot of things, but because we have 3 kids that share a room, and we tried to make the living area downstairs much nicer, so we've moved a lot of those things that we acquired from the house, are now in our room. And so we've been going through that, but I wanted to really quickly, and this is embarrassing, I'm procrastinating doing this in and of itself, show you the state of my room. And what I'm going to be doing is on my other channel, on my vlogging channel, I will be doing, I'm promising myself, squeezing in a weekly update on where my room is at, because before, there's 2 people here. Hi guys. I'm just like getting it excited. I can't see a chat, by the way. I'm not sure Live chat, all messages are visible. So if you're here, comment, because I'm not sure. This is me, by the way, testing out the live feature. If you go back and watch this video, I have an explanation at the beginning of a dream I had this morning where I met Gary Vaynerchuk and I couldn't go live and I embarrassed myself. So that's part of why I'm here. I'm just testing this out. So if anybody yo, keep going. Hi, Raul. I'm so glad to see you. But yeah, here we are. So this is my room, and I'm very embarrassed to show it to you, but I already committed. I'm doing it. So, and I have to hide this so that I can actually see. There we go. So, my explanation, we moved a lot of things in here. This has become the storage unit of the house, essentially. So when you see all this, that's a lot of stuff. So I don't know if there's a way to switch this camera around. I can. So here we go. So this is my desk. It has been incredibly, sadly neglected and has acquired a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, you see where things are going there. This is my bed. I really enjoy sleeping on the ground. In Japan and plenty of other countries, people sleep on the ground on the sashimi futons, which one of these days I'd like to get one of those. But for right now, it's just a bunch of blankets and bed mats so we can wash them periodically. But so we sleep on the ground. So there's that. This will be the new home of my desk because it gets the better light in our room. There's my tripod and things. And 7 Habits book. See these guys right here. I do read. There's my YouTube secrets and my Zen Way of Martial Arts book. And the storage unit. So there it is. And there's no point really going through everything. I've gotten my closet largely gone through. And so things are they're gonna be making progress as they go. So if you're seeing this live or if you're seeing a replay of this in the future, if you want to comment, like, where is your choke point and your like clutter spots? Because I watched another video from the channel The Messy Minimalist, who's also Rachel. I love her. So she was talking about blind spots to clutter, which is something I realized a while ago I'm super prone to. I grew up in a house where my mom just stacked stuff and we didn't get rid of a lot of things, and it wasn't exactly because she was hoarding stuff. It was just she never got back to projects, and it's starting to sound a lot like habits I've developed in adulthood. So I tend to become very blind to the clutter. That's how a lot of these things have sat around in here, is because for me, I'm like, well, I function in my tiny space that is functional. But recognizing, go around your house with some really wide eyes and just see like that spot by the door or wherever those like little choke points are where you're getting things stacked up, and getting things out of there. It does help initially, and then you have to just like, I've decided, like, I have little habits that I'm trying to tweak. Like one of the biggest changes I actually saw was when I stopped trying to accomplish everything all at once, and I just whittled it down to like the most ridiculously small task I could, which for me was hanging up my jacket. I didn't even trip about putting away all of my clothes at night when I changed. I would just, every night or every time I come in my room or my house, I make sure that if I take off a coat or an overshirt or anything like that, I get it hung up right away. And as long as I do that, that habit is staying ingrained. And what's resulted is that over the couple weeks that I've been doing that as just a very ingrained habit, I've been getting all of my clothes put away, and it just becomes a lot easier once you have something like that out of the way. Like, okay, so I don't have a pile of clothes sitting next to my bed. You start noticing those other little things that you can get to and put away. So there we go. 15 minutes of live YouTube. Hope you all enjoyed seeing my horrifically, I hope at least you feel better about whatever your room might look like, because I know we all let things go sometimes, but this is pretty horrendous. So, like I said, if you want to check up on me and see my accountability, I will be leaving a link to my other channel, Mercury Rising, which is where I do some Pacific Northwest news and views, vloggy type stuff. And I will be checking in weekly to update y'all on where I'm at with my room. And in the future, I will be doing more videos on this channel every Monday and Friday about health and wellness and how we can be our best humans. So in the meantime, get out there and be your best human. Take care, guys. Thank you. Stop streaming.